Good afternoon. Thank you for watching East Coast AVP. We're here to bring you the wrap-up video for the Wilmington tournament. It happened yesterday, July 18th. I'm Graham Wren.
Kevin Knight.
We're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Right off the start, before we really explain what happened, I just want to say I think pretty much every single person at this tournament kind of let me down yesterday, because I now have to go on the record and acknowledge to Mark Fornicari that I was wrong, and that's not something I would wish upon anybody, and I've got to do it now. So thank you all for that. Get it together.
What exactly were you wrong about?
I mean, I predicted Mark and Nolan to lose to you, of all people, so great job. And then
I almost did. We took them to 3.
Yeah, you almost did, but almost doesn't cut it. And then we've got I think I had them losing to somebody else on the loser's side.
I don't remember who it was.
I think it was probably Bryce and
Bryce.
probably Angel and Caleb, because I originally had Bryce and Nick going through on the winner's side, which Lord knows that didn't happen.
Another winning prediction.
Yeah. And all jokes aside, when you look at the tournament today, I personally feel like there was a definitive line between the top 7 teams, not necessarily by seed, but the best 7 teams being, in no particular order, Mark and Nolan, Angel and Caleb, Bryce and Nick, Eddie and Ian, Kevin and Dave Arnold, JP and Misha. Who am I forgetting? Will and Matt.
You forgot about them before too.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, I forgot about them before too.
It's all right. They won't let you forget anymore.
They definitely won't let me forget it before. And I think particularly to Matt Helmick, I've got some making up to do, and I will figure out a way to do that. I think what I'm thinking is the next tournament Matt Helmick is at, I might show up and kind of be part of his cheerleading squad for a little bit. Maybe
He'll relish in it.
Yeah, he'll relish. Maybe I'll show up with a fat head, and
that could work.
It might work. We'll see what happens. But Mark and Nolan, those 7 teams were definitely those 7 teams where relatively anything could happen, and then there was a line between them and the rest of the field. And Mark and Nolan beat JP, they beat Kevin, they beat Eddie and Ian, they beat. They'd be in the semis at this point, so their semi was then against us again. So then they beat Kevin again, really establishing dominance there.
Hey, cramps are a thing. We played 15 sets of volleyball.
I mean, cramps are a thing, and the scoreboard's a thing too. So beat Kevin and Dave again, and then beat Angel and Caleb in the final. So in three did not have a single easy match all day, and
it's a hell of a route.
Yeah, so. Sometimes teams win and it's like, oh, you had an easy draw, and this was the exact opposite. They came out and took care of business. So
much to your chagrin. Yeah,
so Mark, congratulations, and the rest of the field, don't let me ever fucking go through this again. Okay, who to talk about next? Do we want to start with, tell you what, we'll talk about kind of first round matches that didn't go as foreseen. We did pick Mark and Nolan over JP and Misha. It was a pretty competitive match.
It was. I think it was 19 or 18 both times.
Yeah, ended up getting that right. But the big one to talk about is Dirksen Bodie against Larry and David Fisher.
Fish pulled through. I mean, we said this was a coin toss because we didn't know what condition he was going to be in.
Yeah, well, we didn't know what condition Dave Fisher would be in. But, turns out the dude can play.
Yeah,
we kind of went with, just kind of what we knew rather than deciding to learn more. And turns out they took the dub over Dirksen Bodie. So hats off to Larry and Fisher. Was it in 3?
I think it might have been. But, yeah.
And then they went on to take a 7th after being seeded 11th. So
pushed us. Yeah, we went through with them.
Did you really?
Yeah, we came out and sleeping on them, and before I knew it, I looked over. It was 15-10, and I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
So we lost set 1, and then pretty straightforward sets 2 and 3. But
gotcha.
Yeah, we're a good team.
Yeah. So as far as kind of stocks rising, obviously, Larry and David, just from the standpoint that we didn't really know David. Now we know. And
I feel like Misha's a little more of a known quantity now in terms of stocks. People didn't really know how high he was going to climb this year, and people have kind of figured out the overline shot, and that's putting a ceiling on.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. As much shit as we give Misha for just going over line, like I was watching the live stream against Mark and Nolan, and Misha went up and thumped some balls.
Did he?
Yeah, Misha thumped a couple, and I was like, oh,
he's expanding.
Yeah. So kind of warms your heart. I would say that we'll stop giving Misha shit for really loving his line shot, but that's just not realistic. So.
It's like you picking Mark to win, which is not realistic.
It's not. Well, all evidence to the contrary, but you better believe I don't know, man. There are times where I don't think Mark's gonna win, and then there's the other part of me that's like, I don't know if I can stomach this again. So we'll see. Other things to notably talk about. Josh Lanier and Spencer Gaston lost their first match to Austin and Cortland. Kind of how we saw it going.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, but then they went into their first losers bracket match and played Michael and Travis. And Michael and Travis, as the 16 seed, came in and won. Kind of an unknown quantity.
I was gonna say, to my knowledge, I don't think they've played an open tournament. I think they've played one. Travis played one AA and one, I think. So he kind of proved he was ready for open. He won over Brandon Henry.
Yeah,
Wilmington.
Okay. Yeah,
and so
I've
he was
definitely
ready for open.
I've definitely subscribed to the opinion that as good as you might think you are, unless you've had some astronomical leap in ability, you shouldn't be playing open until you've won a AA, because you haven't proven that you can kind of hold that level for an entire day.
Agree to disagree, but we'll go
again, barring an astronomical improvement, right? Because just because you think you're ready for open doesn't necessarily mean that you are, and you need to prove that you can hold a certain consistency throughout the entire day. That's my take.
I spent a year going there too. Same thing.
Maybe. Anyway, so shout out to Michael and Travis for getting, I guess probably Travis's first open win.
I was gonna say, I think it is his first open win. I mean, shout out to those guys. Love to see it, and hope they can get a couple points and do better on the next finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of another team that we want to talk about, Austin and Cortland. Kind of going in, we mentioned that there was kind of this line between the top 7 teams and then the rest of the field in our minds, and we felt like two of the teams that were right on the other side of that were Austin and Cortland, and then Dirks and Bodie. And Cortland and Austin actually got to kind of prove that maybe there's that line, and then maybe there's another line, like another kind of range where there's one team. They came out. Kind of came out, took care of business. Lost to 2 teams in that top 7, but also took care of Dirks and Bodie on the loser side. Yeah. So it's good for them.
Who else do you want to go through?
Well, I've got a captive audience behind us.
Yeah, it's kind of what. Yeah, it's kind of what I was looking around for. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We talked about Larry and David. We talked about Austin and Cortland. We talked about Michael and Travis. I think that was pretty, as far as kind of the lower end of the tournament.
Yeah. So, do you want to go into your other finalist pick?
Yeah. So we'll go into other areas where I was wrong, because there's we're going to start with that, and then we'll wrap up with a brief segment on where I was right. Angel and Caleb ended up just kind of going through on the winner's side and losing to Mark in the final.
It was pretty straightforward for them.
Yeah, pretty straightforward day for them. Good job performing.
Good job to Caleb, first final.
Yeah,
you know that?
Is that?
First final of the tournament.
Gotcha.
Coming with the one and only Angel Dacia.
There you go.
Yeah.
Who's next? I guess we'll talk about you for a little bit.
I was just going to say, apparently, because this is what it always comes down to, apparently in this tournament, Angel didn't set well enough to win. I actually don't think that's the story, but we always say,
but we always talk
we always
about
say the
Angel
tournament
setting,
comes
so
down.
We'll go ahead and talk about it.
But yeah, it was Mark and Nolan were bombing serves. I mean, really and truly bombing serves. Those serves put a ton of spin on the ball, and Angel pretty much exclusively bump sets, though he did break out his hands at one point in the finals.
Did he?
That's how much he was up in the first set.
Wow.
Yep, and it was successful.
Hey, you know what? That's a silver lining, because we can still talk shit to Mark about that. That he was down enough in set 1 that Angel broke his hands out. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even Mark's got something to improve on.
Yeah. It's not possible, but yeah.
You're right. It's not possible. Yeah. So you looks like from your perspective, you kind of a question mark on your day when you think about it, because both of your losses were to the eventual champion.
Yeah, I actually talked to Ian about that. It's kind of funny. He in not exactly the same words, said the same thing. He goes, I really don't think you can take much out of your day. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you hadn't played with Dave all year long. He came back from a 6-month tour in Iran. You played hard all day long, and you gelled as a team again, which everybody kind of knew you would, but we weren't really sure how long it was going to take you to do it. And your only 2 losses were to the team that got hot and eventually won the event. So he's like, you guys played solid ball, you stayed together, you cheered, and you don't really know if you were better than worse than any of the other top teams there.
Yeah. I mean, apparently those FIVB half stars weren't enough training for some of the local
Dave?
competition.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know who teams went after, but apparently
Split.
Split.
Yeah. I mean, there were times where I was struggling to put balls away, and then we kind of figured that out on my end. I just needed a higher up and down ball, and then I was setting Dave too tight, and Nolan swallowed up him on some of the blocks on the overline balls. And then he told me to bring him off by 3 feet, and he started siding out, and then came back to me. So it was like really back and forth all day long.
I was hoping to get some of Dave's input on this video, because he was signed up for this kind of local Virginia Beach tournament with his dad, Arnie Arnold. If you look on the AVP America page, that's who Dave's playing with, Arnie Arnold, which raises a lot of questions, and frankly might be my favorite name of all time.
We were supported by him all day long. You will not find a happier father to watch his son play beach volleyball.
Gotcha.
He probably brought us a total of 3 or 4 gallons of water and at least a gallon of pickle juice for the cramps that ended up happening. But he was the most supportive. He was keeping track of hitting errors versus successful attack attempts by shot and swing for the other team.
In his head.
No, on a piece of paper. He had a clipboard. The guy's a legend.
Why wasn't he sitting on the sideline?
He was sitting.
He's sitting just far enough back.
Yeah?
Sitting just far enough back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I love it.
Gotcha.
Mr. Arnold is quick as a whip too.
Yeah. Apparently that dad strength though isn't enough to overcome some cramps. Apparently dad strength does have its limits, as we found out.
Yeah.
Who else to talk about? We'll talk about Ian and Eddie.
They gelled really well.
They gelled well. I guess I owe a slight apology to Eddie because apparently they performed well enough to make a semifinal. And I didn't have them, with Eddie being the main kind of catalyst for that lack of a semifinal appearance. I owe him an apology.
So their day is interesting too, from talking to Ian about it, because not that the first 2 were gimmies, because Larry and Dave Fisher were good, but the first 2 rounds are pretty straightforward for them, and then they ended up losing to Angel in the 3rd round.
No. Mark and Nolan.
Oh, it was Mark and Nolan.
Yeah.
That knocked him into losers.
Yep.
But so at that point, the lowest they could have gotten was a 5th. So they were kind of set up to make that.
Yeah, I mean, I initially picked them to lose to JP and Misha on JP.
Yeah, I was gonna
probably
say
the one bright,
the fact
one
that they beat
shining moment of my bracket is honestly kind of picking JP and Misha to lose round 1, and then picking them to beat the loser of the Bryce and Nick against Will and Matt matchup, which they did. Unfortunately, I just picked that matchup wrong.
very wrong.
Very wrong, apparently. But at the same time, had the correct requisite faith in JP and Misha to get through that round at least. But unfortunately, kind of ran into Ed and Ian. Apparently things got a little chippy from what I heard. I wasn't there to experience it, but there was some talking.
There's some chattiness.
Yeah, a little
between
bit of
JP
chattiness.
and Ian.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, looks like Ian just ended up being a little too much for JP to handle.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was a combo of Ian. Ian was setting Eddie really well, so Ian was actually seeing most of the balls, and he proved kind of too hard to stop. And then Eddie actually, I've never seen Eddie jump serve. Eddie was jump serving a lot at this tournament, and he was successful with it. So
Okay.
I think it also comes back to if JP and Misha play at this point, because people have picked up on Misha so much, Misha's getting every ball. And so you do that at 93 degrees with 100% humidity, It's 6'7" for a whole day of volleyball, and you eventually run out of steam.
Yeah.
I think that played into it too. Whereas Eddie and Ian were actually split blocking for a little while.
Gotcha.
So.
Definitely. It's funny you bring that up because we were picking. I believe it was this exact match. I had JP and Misha against Eddie and Ian, and there was a part of me that wanted to pick Eddie and Ian, but then kind of the March Madness bracket filler outer portion of me who's like, yeah, Cinderella's gonna do it, was like, this is too good of an opportunity. As far as like, I honestly think that matchup is
I remember
relatively close to 50-50. It might not be exactly 50-50, but it's still a pretty good matchup. And it was like, you know what, this is too good of an opportunity to pass up, and unfortunately we were wrong. So.
Oh, no, you were wrong. Because Ian was in the room with me, and I vehemently disagreed.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Next video, we're gonna do your bracket.
Oh no! I can't be liable for a bracket.
We will.
I can't take the heat that you take.
What are we gonna do once I'm back playing again?
I have no idea.
How are we gonna deal with
I
that?
can't take the heat that you take at that tournament.
All right. So.
It's all on these broad shoulders.
Hats off to Eddie and Ian for taking care of business, doing pretty well. Took a third, lost to the two people who made finals. Not a bad day. Next, let's talk about Will and Matt.
Oof, the dagger.
This hurts me a lot because
I did tell them. I vouched with this. Somebody on that side of the bracket was getting ticked.
Yeah.
Somebody was gonna get screwed. I mean, there was gonna be somebody that went 1 and 2. Somebody in there was gonna go 1 and 2. That probably shouldn't go 1 and 2, and you had to pick somebody, and you picked Will and Matt.
Yeah, it was kind of the prerequisite faith in JP and Misha,
which panned out partially.
Was partially panned out, and frankly, just kind of, like you said, you're like, hey, this is supposed to be hot takes. Where are the upsets? And it was like, well, it's coming. JP and Misha, barnstorming through the losers bracket.
You got 1, not 2.
And unfortunately, it meant someone had to take the fall. And I kind of, I picked that 4-5 matchup incorrectly. Against frankly 2 of my favorite people.
Yeah.
In the scene, and two of the nicer people as well.
You're no longer their favorite person, but
that's what I've heard. But at the same time, I hope everyone can kind of look at these videos and understand I'm creating a story rather than
true. It's all narrative based.
Exactly.
It's all narrative based.
That's kind of what ended up happening. They had a really good day. Knocked off Bryce and Nick. Ended up losing to Angel and Caleb on the play into the semis on the winner's side.
Yep. And actually, they had a swing to take it to 3, and it wasn't a swing. It was in fact a roll shot to the one and only Angel Dacho. So you can imagine how that ball went.
No. I mean.
Oh no! That one actually was a swing. There was another one that wasn't a swing.
Let's see.
Will took a big cut at it and hit it about 2 feet out of bounds and felt really bad. And because I walked up to him afterwards and I was like, I'm really happy that you actually took a swing there. And he's like, dude, I can't miss that. I'm like, I agree, but like at the same time, I would much rather you miss a swing than do what I just described, which did happen a couple times.
It's funny. I think that's it's kind of a philosophical difference you and I have, which is that you're like, you got to go swing at everything, especially when the game's on the line versus, it's difficult to talk about because like if you hit a shot and it gets dug, a lot of times it will turn into a better opportunity because it's an easier set to make. But
it's too easy to hit a hand, hit a platform, hit a noggin, hit part of the court that's not covered on a swing, and it just ends it right there. I like the simplicity. But we can go into this on another preview video. We've got to keep this one short.
Yeah, apparently the PhD level scientist in Kevin likes the simplicity. So we'll just move on from there. But
I hit the ball hard. I hit hard. That's about it.
Kind of hard.
No, I mean that's my philosophy on volleyball.
I mean, I'm saying you don't hit the ball.
That sucks. That hurts. Well,
but,
good luck with the rest of the video.
Yeah, thank you. But we'll, they were real close to making the semifinal. Played some good ball. Matt, I will say that a lot of our...
they were close to making the semifinal.
Yes, a lot of our...
It was actually 10-10 in set 3, close to making the semifinal. My partner had all of his toes on the right foot cramped. So like they had all like clenched on his right foot, and he was like walking around with a club. And I was like, Dave, we're gonna side out, and then we're gonna win this game 15-10. Because if we don't, we're not gonna win. And I went back to the service line, and I just absolutely bombed 2 aces on Matt. And then Will said some expletives loudly and called the timeout. And I don't actually remember how the last 2 points went down.
Gotcha. Well,
They were very close to something.
yeah. So my hats off to them. I definitely have some making up to do there. Kind of like Kevin said, someone on that side of the bracket was going to get dicked over, and unfortunately, it ended up being them.
Yeah.
I guess now what probably everyone has been looking forward to us talking about. We're going to talk about Bryce and Nick for a little bit. You know,
Bryce and Nick weren't looking forward to you talking about them.
I can imagine that.
This is the fuel on the fire that is Nick Drucker.
I texted Bryce at like 11 o'clock. You know, this is well before having any knowledge of how the Will and Matt matchup went. And I was like, hey, dude, how's the day going so far? Blah, blah, blah. That was at 11. I got a reply at like 10:30, and it was 2 texts, and it was not that. Next text, good. and you know, at this point, I kind of knew what had happened and didn't really pry too much farther.
Sidebar, when Nick gets his first shot to play against you when you come back from injury, I will be there to tape that.
You will be what now?
I will be there to tape that.
Oh, boy.
I just want to watch what happens.
Yeah.
Just stoking the flames. He appreciates it.
Yeah,
he does.
yeah,
he's
yeah.
not actually mad about it.
Yeah, you
He might be a
know,
little
hopefully everyone understands at the end of the day. You know, this is based on a foundation of respect for everyone's game. You know, we're
And to be fair, you picked them for like the finals, so it wasn't like you picked against them.
right? Like how can they hold me doing a wrap up video where they talk about them, you know, kind of dropping some games, to put it politely. You know, you can't fault me for that. But
He will anyway.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, they had a rough day. They lost, I think, in 3 to Matt and Will wildly. That was very
You say
loudly.
wildly,
Very loudly.
Who was loudly?
Will, then Matt, then Will again.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You think you think my prediction maybe had something to do with that?
Could be.
Will and Matt were a little
Could
fired
be.
up.
It was great. So Nick might actually blame their loss on Matt as well. No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
I'm kidding. I'm sure he does it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
But-
if Nick does that, then
But no, that's petty.
yeah. that is bad.
But yeah, they ended up losing to Misha and JP, and that was, I think, the real shocker.
Well, not to some people.
Well, not for JP.
Yeah, not to JP.
They went to 3 with JP. I actually have that match. I'm gonna upload it. I think JP and Misha lost set 2 21 to 10 or 11. Yeah, it was like the first set of the finals in Richmond.
Yeah, so Nick had his serving.
Nick
his serving
he
going.
was like, I'm gonna win this.
Okay.
And then in set 3, I think it was like 10 to 10, and Misha got like 3 straight blocks.
I think I have a pretty similar match against Nick from like a year or 2 years ago.
Aaron Chong.
Yeah.
Aaron Chong.
Yeah, me and Aaron Chong were playing Nick and Omar, I think. And Nick took over a game.
Yep.
So we split the first 2, went to 3. Then Aaron Chong decided he was going to put me on his back, and you know went back, and we were up 14-6 because Aaron Chong just ripped a bunch of serves. And then we proceeded to win 15-13 on Aaron Chong failing the side out, unfortunately. Which is
Wow.
It was one of the more interesting
Big sad.
matches I've seen. But but we ended up getting the victory. But it seems like
I mean, the story on their day was Bryce struggled to side out. I'm not entirely sure why. It didn't look like he was passing terribly, but he was struggling to see the court or something along those lines. And
maybe he had a little
makes
too
it
much the
tough
night
block.
before.
Who knows?
Who knows? We'll just
They had
leave
a rough day with the 9th place finish. So
it. How hot was it?
it was, I think it got up to 93, and then somebody had a real feel air temperature at like Wilmington's like city forecast at 100, and I want to say on court was probably 5 or 10 degrees hotter than that feeling.
Oh wow.
Because it was a little bit darker sand, and the parking lot around the courts actually feeds into the heat
Makes sense.
because it's asphalt all around the Captain Village facility, so that just radiates heat off.
All right.
So yeah, you can imagine it It was one of the hottest days I've ever played.
Well, hopefully Nick gets a dub while I'm still doing this, because I'll probably be out for the rest of the summer before I have to play him again. So hopefully there's not too much ill will, because I like the guy.
Yeah, Nick's a stud, man. I mean, we got a dub earlier this year, but we'll see who he goes with next. You know, he's probably got his pick of blockers at this point.
Yeah.
Playing with Bryce, and so he's.
All right. So who haven't we talked about at this point?
I think we're kind of good.
Think we're good?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that happened that.
All right,
really
real
notable.
quick, kind of stocks that rose and stocks that fell.
I mean, even though it wasn't really his fault, just to piggyback off what we were just talking about, I don't think it was really his fault because of Bryce was getting almost every ball, but like you have a 9th place finish with Bryce. I don't think you can keep Nick's stock where it was. It was kind of sky high at the beginning of the year. I'd say it drops a little. Bryce probably drops a little more after this last one. Again, like that's just how it is. It'll rise next tournament when he has a great finish. I don't know where to put Angel and Caleb because they made a final in straight sets and then won the first set commandingly, and we thought, all right, this is just another Angel Dace Wilmington win, and then Mark and Nolan came out of nowhere.
Sure.
So I don't know where to put
You
them.
think Caleb's stock went up? Because
Not really. I think it was really just what was expected. I mean, he's really big, heavy arm swinger. I mean, he did a good job mentally of staying in it. I think he's obviously got a lot to learn. He's 20.
Yeah.
But I don't think he went any higher or lower than people would have put him.
Sure. Eddie's stock definitely went up in my book.
Definitely.
Definitely owe him that. He proved me wrong.
I think
JP and Misha were about where I had them, but kind of get after the initial Wilmington performance, where we kind of had them pretty high when they took down Chris Vaughn and Nate Miller.
Yep.
They've had a couple,
rocky
by those standards, underwhelming. Not that they played poorly, but based on, if you compare it to that performance, it's kind of like when you're zeroing in on a point. There was an overcorrection high as far as they pulled off a pretty spectacular upset, and then probably a little closer where they should be right now.
Yeah, I think trying to think. I think Nolan's stock goes way up. He's had some pretty strong finishes, kind of sporadically when he decides to play. But this tournament was really a coming out party for him. He was a massive serve.
Yeah,
it's a great setter.
They're
always
really hard to evaluate because there's a part of me that you look at a tournament and you see somebody seated where they are, and part of you wants to say, well, there's a reason they're seated there, and
part of you does, yeah.
Part of you does for sure, but at the same time,
they're not a 10 seed. But
I know they're not a 10, but then it's like, do I think?
But where do I put them between 6 and 2?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So definitely a little bit of a stock rise there. Big shout out to Mark for making it through the heat. Unlike,
yeah, he was. They were both getting a lot of balls. They split blocked.
Yeah.
And Nolan did a phenomenal job on D, and actually Mark did a phenomenal job for blocking. I mean, he doesn't normally block, and he got a decent number of blocks. Actually, in the finals for one point, I think he blocked Caleb, and then they picked it up, and then he blocked Angel for the point. It was like 2 or 3 blocks in the same play, one of them for a point. It's like, all right. I guess that happens now.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark for his longevity too. You look at a lot of the other people that he kind of is known for playing Wilmington tournament against, whether it's Mike Thompson, TJ Cloud, other people of that kind of era. They're all Larry,
yeah.
Jake Elliott.
They're not winning tournaments.
They're not playing tournaments.
Yeah.
They're gone, and Mark's still here, chewing tobacco wad in mouth and winning tournaments.
I actually said I'd be curious at this point because I played a decent number, not a ton, but a decent number of Wilmington tournaments. I was like, I wonder if I've played more tournaments than Mark's won yet. More Wilmington tournaments.
You've played a lot of tournaments.
Played a lot of tournaments, but not all of them in Wilmington. I probably only played 4 or 5 a year.
Well, what's the question?
How many total Wilmington tournaments have I played versus how many Wilmington tournaments? No.
We're not counting
versus how many Wilmington tournaments has Mark won? And I think it's about equal. He's been around a while and he's been winning for a while.
Mark, if you're listening, which we know you fucking are, so come on, bring it.
I probably have to go play.
Okay, you go play. Go. We'll wrap it up in the next 2 minutes.
This has been good. I really appreciate everybody listening, and we're gonna keep doing this because this is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's funny, a lot of fun. Anybody else I need to talk about?
Oh man, I'm trying to think up and down the list.
I think everyone else pretty much did what we expected them to.
Yeah, Dave Fisher, sneaky strong, even
Yeah.
though he's like a 40-year-old man or something like that, 45-year-old man.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anybody in the semis or finals. Will. He's definitely a force. But
Yeah. So I've got some making up to do there.
yeah.
Then
No, I think that's about it.
all right.
I really do.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. This is East Coast AVP. See you next time.